Yeah, exactly. All right, so let me get you caught up, Tom. We're going to watch a video about corporal punishment because that's what we're moving on to today, 8th Amendment. You read Abraham, right? Now we're moving on to corporal punishment. I do not have a paddle, and Tom, you probably would have been the one who would have been paddled today. So be thankful for that. But this is the question that I want to begin with is, do you favor the use of corporal punishment in schools, or are you opposed to it? Are there any instances you can imagine where corporal punishment is a reasonable form of school discipline? And what if parents consent to corporal punishment? So let's just watch this video of this debate about corporal punishment. We'll discuss.
Well, there's one big debate breaking out right now in Washington after one school district down in Texas decided to take a new look at the old tradition of paddling. Right now, corporal punishment is allowed in 20 states. Supporters argue that just the threat of paddling significantly helps with discipline, but Congress is now talking about a national ban on all kinds of punitive practices. So is that a good idea? Joining me now, Alice Farmer. She's with the ACLU's Human Rights Program, which wrote 2 reports on the negative effects of corporal punishment, and Susan Avery, Editor-in-Chief of Parent Dish. Okay, Alice, let me start with you. So I take it the ACLU against corporal punishment and against what's being done down in Texas.
Absolutely. We believe that corporal punishment is ineffective and abusive, and that there are just much better ways of disciplining children in schools and making sure that there are safe environments for kids to learn in.
Why not just let the schools decide on a case-by-case business, though? Why does there need to be a national ban deciding for everybody?
Because it's important to give all of America's children the same level of protection. It just doesn't seem right that in some places kids can sustain serious injuries while they're in school, and in other places they have safe environments to learn.
Susan, is that what's happening? Kids are being seriously injured thanks to the corporal punishment we see in these 20 states?
Absolutely not. That is a complete exaggeration of the reality. This is the way they're administering corporal punishment, which they've only done once since this has been in effect last year, is it's by major offense, and then it's through a discussion with the parent. The parent has to agree that this is an okay way to discipline their child. They don't just do this off the top of their head in the middle of a heated moment.
Well, what about that, Alice? I mean, if the parents say it's okay, and there's no allegation in this Texas district, at least, that the child was hurt in any way, or there was anything more than essentially a spanking, which a lot of parents favor, why should the state, or for that matter, the U.S. Congress, be sticking its nose into it?
Well, I'm glad right now that in Texas nothing serious has happened in this particular district. But the fact of the matter is that a corporal punishment can cause routine bruising, hematomas, whiplash damage, broken bones. The Society for Adolescent Medicine has a strong position against this practice.
Alice, are you against corporal punishment in schools only, or would you like to see a ban on, spanking across the board, even in a private home?
Oh no, right now we're very much talking about corporal punishment in schools. We want to make sure kids are safe in schools and they have a place where they can learn.
So is it okay for a parent to spank or paddle his child in the privacy of his own home?
That's not something I've done research or work on, and I'm really just focused on trying to make a safe place for kids to learn.
I mean, because the argument, Susan, is that if it's safe in the home, why is it not safe when it's done by an administrator in a school with the parent's permission?
Exactly. I mean, I don't know why this is such a big deal. There are different parts of the United States. Here in New York, our liberal area, we would never ever do something like that. But in Texas, there's a different way of parenting, and we have to respect what the community wants.
Susan, but do we? Because, the argument that Alice seems to be making is that some children have gotten hurt, and some administrators cannot be trusted. And is school really the place to really, unleash on a child?
Well, I don't know of any child getting hurt from corporal punishment being paddled on their bottom. This is a very the most controlled way a corporal punishment can be administered. This is not in any way about abusing a child. We're not talking about a beating here.
Alice, do you have a specific case you can cite?
Oh, we have hundreds of cases. I've interviewed more than 100 parents and students and teachers and administrators for the work that I've done. And we've got documented cases of injuries happening. And that's not just from my work, but from work done by pediatricians and researchers across the country.
Yeah, I'll give you the last word on that, Susan.
I don't know what to say. I haven't seen her documentation, but I can tell you in this Texas school district, it is done in the most responsible way, and there haven't been any complaints, and the parents sign on to it before anything is done.
It's an interesting debate. I, for one, did not know that corporal punishment was still allowed in 20 states. and maybe perhaps for not much longer. But we appreciate the fair and balanced debate, ladies. Thanks to the both of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
putting aside,
All right,
I will pass it.
so what do you think? Corporal punishment, yay or nay?
You want to write it first?
Yeah, if you want to write it out, that would be great. Madison, in favor of the use of corporal punishment in schools?
No,
What was that?
no, I don't.
No, you do not. Okay? Why?
I mean, I don't really personally favor it anywhere in the first place. So, I'm not gonna favor it in the home. I don't really think I can say that I favor it in schools.
Okay, sure, and that makes sense, absolutely. Stephen, what do you think? Corporal punishment in schools?
I mean, under the right circumstances.
Under the right circumstances? Okay, Garrett, do you think there are right circumstances?
I think that it should go to the parents. They're,
Left to the parents. So the parents, in these, let's say that we got these 20 states. The parents then would authorize the school to use corporal punishment if necessary, right?
no, I think that the school should, it should just, if the parents want to do it, they can do it. But the school shouldn't be involved in it.
Okay, so the school's not involved in it at all. There's nothing, so in a school, it is not an option as far as punishment goes. But it's okay in the home. Did I get that? Okay. Brooke, what do you think?
I don't think it should be in schools.
Okay. Just by a show of hands, who would be in favor of some use of corporal punishment in schools?
Stephen changed his mind.
It really, it shouldn't, huh? It shouldn't surprise me, because who would be on the receiving end of the paddle, Brooklyn? Exactly. It's like saying, who would agree to be beaten for some kind of offense in school? Oh, yeah, sure, yeah, me, hey, please. I would love to be in Mr. Switcher's office. Like poor Ingraham laid out on his desk, held down. Okay. Now what if, quite a visual. Are there any circumstances though, I mean, where corporal punishment might be appropriate, Eli? Anything? I mean, what if the option were a lengthy suspension? What if as opposed to having a 10-day suspension, you could have one spanking, Shamar, one spanking, and get it over. You wouldn't miss 10 days of school and all the work that goes along with it and goes on your record and everything else. I mean, what if the spanking, let's say the rule was it doesn't even go on your record. 10-day suspension, I believe, would go on your disciplinary record.
Yeah,
Okay? So let's say they give you a chance to just take one spanking. 20 slaps with old wacky or old hickory or whatever we call this stupid thing. And you're done. 15. All right, sorry, 20. Yeah. I'm getting out of hand here.
One spanking with 20.
Let's say, okay, let's say between 1 and 5. Okay? 1 and 5 whacks with old hickory. 2.5. If it's your birthday, we'll shave 1 off. Shamar, what do you think?
I might take the spanking,
You might take the spanking?
possibly.
Possibly? Todd?
I mean, I would take the corporal punishment, but I don't think that's a rule that should be used though. Just because, I mean, I would do it just because it served me better,
Okay.
but it's still like, it's not gonna like do anything like to rehabilitate the student. It puts like a lot of power in the school's hands.
It does put a lot of power in the school's hands, doesn't it? Because this is physical force. Madison?
Also, like, the age we're at, like, corporal punishment in the home even is supposed to be used on, like, young children, it's like a conditioning, like, method, like, they don't wanna do things, and like, it's used as like a threatening tool kind of thing, like, if you don't do this, like, I'm gonna spank you, that's like how it is when you're like 6.
Right.
And so by the time you're in like middle school and high school, like, that's ridiculous, like,
No, you're right.
to be like, for that to be used as a method of punishment, like, we're old enough to like, be like, okay, like, the fact that we say like, oh yeah, I'd rather do that than get in trouble than insurance doesn't seem as such a big deal, so it's used on like younger children, by the time you're in school, you're 7. And so even that is the age where you're getting to the point where that shouldn't even be used like at all,
Mhm.
it's not even going to end up being as effective.
That's what they call, in psychology, they call it operant conditioning, since I do teach psychology as well. Operant conditioning is based on this idea of punishments and rewards, reinforcing the behavior you want to encourage, and then having kind of negative reinforcement or punishment to discourage. And I think you make a very good point there. I mean, is a paddling, is that the kind of reinforcement for behavior that you want to use? You know, Eli?
Well, I think that it would just cause, kids to not act out only because they're scared of getting like paddled. So instead of them actually knowing, especially if you start from a young age, they'll start grasping less of what's right and wrong, and then they'll start thinking, okay, what's going to get me paddled and what's not.
Okay.
And I just think it can like make the students like feel really distant from the school. And for some students, it might make them resent the school and like feel anger towards them, and because they're doing this to them. And I just think it'd be a bad idea, because I think that it would make the school stop being like a safe place for learning and just be a place where you're just trying to do whatever you can not to get paddled.